Camera on, mic on. hari Hashini ඔයා පටන් ගන්න. දැන් ඊට පස්සේ මම කතා කරන්න වචනයක් අතවා ඉවරනකම්ම කරන්න. හරි. හරි Hashini. හරි mic on. හරි.
Ayubowan. Good afternoon. On behalf of the South Asian International Association for Eccd, I would like to warmly welcome Mr. Karma Gele, the Eccd specialist of the government of Bhutan. Welcome, sir. We are pleased to inform that the South Asian Educational Summit 2022 will be held from 18th to 20th June in Colombo, Sri Lanka. This summit is focused on early childhood care and development and general education. So we take this an opportunity to invite all 7 countries to join in hand with us for this occasion in June. So this discussion is just one step, probably our first step towards the event planned in June. So first of all, I would like to invite Mr. Karma to give a brief self-introduction prior to starting this discussion.
Hello everyone, Kuzu Zangbo. My name is Karma Gele and I work with the Ministry of Education here in Bhutan, particularly focusing on early childhood care and development programs. I have been working in this program for about 15 years now, and I am enjoying the work. And now, upon your invitation to the South Asian network, I am happy to be part of the collective effort of the South Asian region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karma. So to proceed ahead with the discussion, the aim of this discussion is to discuss the nature of the early childhood education in Bhutan. So from the first part of this discussion, I would like to clarify the policies on Eccd in your country. So to start with, can you please briefly explain the Eccd policies in your country? Like, is it a policy focused on local priorities, or is it to cater the global requirements or international standards?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share our policy on Eccd. So basically, the Eccd age in our country is right from conception till age 8. So the whole age range is a priority. Within this, we have until age 2 under the parenting and childcare programming. From 3 to 5 is preschool programs, and from 6 onwards, 6 to 8 is school-based education. So therefore, right now we are focusing more on the 3 to 5 because the 6 to 8 is already taken care of by the education system and schools, which has been in place for a long time. But the 3 to 5 is a new area, and currently we are focusing on this as a priority to provide preschool education. Our policy is, yes, as you rightly asked, based on local priority as well as a global agenda, particularly the SDG 4.2, which addresses universal preschool education for all children.
Thank you, Mr. Karma. Who gets involved in making policies on Eccd? Who do you think should contribute in making Eccd policies?
The development of Eccd policy is spearheaded by the government. Basically, the Education Ministry is the nodal agency, but the Education Ministry drafts any policy in collaboration with the Planning Commission and the government as a whole. But in the process, there are also higher education institutions, the health sector, the child protection sector, the civil society organizations, private sector, parents, and so basically the development of the policy itself is a collective effort driven by the government.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Karma, for that clarification. How would you rate the country policies on Eccd compared to the policies of the countries in the region?
So basically, when we develop Eccd policies, we look at what is going on internationally. Depending on what is happening in other countries, and also drawing from brain science. Now, in recent times, there is emerging neuroscientific findings on the importance of early childhood everywhere, and they do have recommendations on what the policy should be like. For example, in recent times, there is a focus on nurturing care framework. So we are also addressing that, as well as the importance of preschool education. So our policy is developed locally, but is based on insights from international research findings and best practices, as well as the local need.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Karma. So moving ahead to the second section of the discussion, I would like to discuss about the curriculum of Eccd centers. So what is the basic structure of the curriculum of Eccd centers?
Oh, thank you. The Eccd curriculum as such is not like, as it is everywhere else, it is not like school curriculum, which is more prescriptive and content driven. So here in our country, the curriculum itself is based on the national early learning and development standards. First, we develop children's learning and development standards, validate them for contextual relevance as well as age appropriateness, and then put it together. So the curriculum that is practiced in Eccd centers across the country is basically driven by the ELDS and of course the learning outcome framework is basically the ELDS. In terms of the process of curriculum implementation and localizing, we do not do it centrally. We provide the learning outcome framework, and every Eccd center develops in its own day-to-day program depending on the contextual relevance and local feasibility.
Yeah, thank you very much for the elaboration on the structure of the curriculum of the Eccd centers. How would you evaluate the curriculum of Eccd centers? Like, is there a practice of continuous assessment?
Oh yes, the curriculum is reviewed every few years, every 3 to 5 years on the whole, to see if the curriculum is still relevant, if there are new developments from research, and if our curriculum needs to be updated. That is one thing. On the other hand, we have formative continuous assessment of the children's learning outcome and see if the curriculum is aligned with what children need to learn in Eccd center, as well as what are the change that is taking place in our own country context. So that is in terms of assessing and reviewing the curriculum itself. But on the whole, we also have a system called the quality monitoring system, which actually reviews the whole Eccd center, including the Eccd curriculum, teachers training, the Eccd environment, and governance and leadership. So therefore, the whole Eccd center or the program itself is reviewed consistently to keep it relevant and updated.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Karma. How do you assure that your curriculum is updated with modern practices, and like, is it in line with the global advancements like technology, the modern psychological aspects?
Yeah, yes, of course. The most important thing that we consider in our curriculum is to make sure that our curriculum is localized, but localized in terms of how well it can be implemented. But in the development process, we draw from, yes, educational theories such as from Piaget and Vygotsky and Erikson and all of these traditional theorists, as well as emerging brain science, brain development findings. So that it has a strong basis and relevance to what children of this age need, and need particularly in line with emerging science.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Karma. So moving to the last part of the discussion. So I would like to discuss about the teaching learning process. So yeah, can you please briefly explain the teacher learning process in your country? Like what kind of an approach the learning process is practicing?
So basically the teaching learning process is, of course, as is everywhere else, as the best practice is basically play-based teaching learning, following the different models of the world, particularly interactive, play-based, activity-based, project-based, and outdoor learning. So this is the most important approach that we have adopted.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Karma. And obviously, like Bhutan as the one and only country as the who is using GNH, the gross national happiness, as the to evaluate the development. It's no wonder that y'all are using the play-based, like the child focusing approach on the learning process. So thank you very much on the clarification. So the other most important question for us as the beginners is, what are the key roles played by an Eccd teacher in your country?
Oh yes, that's an important question. I think the Eccd teacher is a very important player in the early education of young children, because what happens in an Eccd center is determined by the quality and capacity of that teacher. So we make sure that the teachers are good human beings, as well as they have capacity to support and care for children. So since Eccd is not very old, in fact, it has been around 15 years since we started establishing Eccd centers. So therefore, right now, Eccd teachers are mostly government employed and government paid personnel. in 90% of the centers, the Eccd centers are supported by the government, and the facilitators or educators are paid by the government. The other 10% are basically workplace-based Eccd and private Eccd. So, so they are, of course, since private Eccd is profit-oriented center, they are paid by the private entrepreneur. But the quality standards for teachers is the same across all Eccd centers, and they have to undergo the same kind of training in terms of basic training, diploma in Eccd, and so on.
Okay, let's move to the final question of the discussion. How do you think the Eccd in your country can be improved to make the teaching learning process more effective?
Oh yeah, I think there are a few things that we need to keep on doing. Right now, most of the Eccd teachers are grade 12 passed with a diploma. Now, eventually, we are hoping to have Eccd teachers at par with school teacher. For the government paid and employed teachers, we hope to have them at the same level as primary school teachers. So that is one important thing. On the other hand, in terms of capacity building, we right now have a diploma in Eccd for Eccd teachers, or what we call facilitators here. But because it is not enough, in the near future, in the next 5 years to 10 years, we are hoping to have Eccd teachers with qualification of a degree, at least, of a bachelor's degree in Eccd. That is from the professionalization point of Eccd, view of Eccd, that is really important to us. On the other hand, to keep on improving, we figure out what is most important for us. As you mentioned, for us, the gross national happiness is an important development philosophy. So whether it's the curriculum of Eccd centers or what children should learn, we are trying to align as far as possible with the national philosophy of gross national happiness, which lays emphasis on enhancing your culture and cultural diversity, protecting the environment, enhancing good governance, spiritual development. So these areas are part of the curriculum, and we will continue to improve and improve the curriculum by way of figuring out how we best integrate them in the Eccd curriculum and learning process. On the other hand, the curriculum, if we are to stay effective, relevant, and sustainable, we have to keep on reviewing our curriculum and quality of Eccd centers constantly, because if we do not do that, then we may not be able to understand whether we are focused and purpose-driven and effective in terms of the impact on children's development.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Karma. Thank you very much for accepting our request and joining us with this forum. I actually learned a lot as a beginner to this field. I hope my colleagues will do the same. So thank you very much once again for sharing your knowledge, your experience with us. And I hope you'll continue giving your helping hand for us in going forward, especially during the summit planned in June. So once again, on behalf of the association, I would like to thank you very much. So thank you, Mr. Karma. And
Thank
you.
you very much. Yeah. It's my pleasure.
Oh, sir. Oh, sir. Ivarai, sir. Ivarai, sir. Ivarai. Yeah, Mr. Karma.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. Apart from the discussion, like now, like I personally am very interested about Bhutan because of the special practices in your country, especially with regard to the carbon emission, the GNH, about the GNH, because it's the one and only country in the world. So probably the happiest country, as everyone says. So and you have a closed system because with reference to tourists, with reference to migrants, you have a closed policy. The country has a closed policy. So the country has its own economic policy. So it's, most of the systems are based on local priorities. So how do you elaborate this? Is Bhutan actually the happiest country in the world? What do you think about
that? Yes, of course. Happiness is a subject, very relative term, and also subjective to what you think. So, basically, from our own assessment, we don't claim that we are the happiest country, but every person, every citizen in the country aspire to be as happy as possible. So that is the most important thing. And when we aspire to be as happy as possible, our government's policy of gross national happiness is actually really supportive of our pursuit of individual happiness. So that's how the system and the individual works together. Basically, when you talk about happiness, I think there are different definitions of happiness across the world, and maybe there are different parameters in the rating or the measurement of happiness. So basically, we may not be by international standards, but our goal is not to be the first country, but making sure that everyone is as happy as he or she can be. So that's the most important thing for us.
Yeah, so it seems like y'all are mainly focusing on the basic needs and requirements rather than making it complicated with all the technology, all the the modern things. So it's the basic stuff. So is it the same attitude when it comes to children, the young generation, the adults? So is it the same attitude throughout? For everybody, for all the citizens?
Oh yes. So basically, as you also mentioned, our goal is not to be a capitalist or a consumerist society. Our goal is to, if we are to achieve happiness, or if we as a country is to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be happy, then the most important trick is balancing, the act of balancing, and what you call following the middle path. Not, of course, economics is important. On one hand, pursuing economic self-sufficiency at the government level as well as individual level. On the other hand, the environment is the most precious heritage that all of us have, whether we are from Sri Lanka or Bhutan or America or China, it doesn't matter. We have to depend on environment and environmental resources. So our way of looking at environment is not to damage everything today and not leave anything for our children. So we try to make sure that the environment is not destroyed by one generation of people, but it's used in a sustainable manner. Another aspect is our spiritual heritage. As a small country and a country that is not very diverse as much as in other countries, we have strong cultural values. So that is an important foundation on which children develop. Basically, values like honesty, responsibility, kindness, sense of community, and integrity. All of these are important values for happiness as well as for children to learn. So therefore, in our early education curriculum as well as general education curriculum, we try to infuse them in the curriculum, the learning process, and also in the ethos of institutions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Karma. Apart from the educational discussion, I learned a life lesson as well, and I personally am very impressed with the environmental policy the country is having. Like, being the only carbon negative country, y'all are not doing it only for yourself. Y'all are saving the world as well. So the part that we couldn't do, y'all are doing it for the rest of the world. So on behalf of the whole world, I would like to pay my gratitude for that, because y'all are doing it not for the, not for the present generation, for the future as well. So y'all are doing a great thing. For the world, being the only carbon negative country, I'm so impressed with that. So thank you very much for sharing that knowledge as well. And so with this, I would like to sum up our forum. Thank you very much. And once again, I would like to invite you for this forum in June. I hope to give you fullest cooperation in that as well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you. I just forgot to mention one thing about this so-called conservative tourism policy. For I think South Asians, I think it's not like the policy is different, because we have consideration for South Asian visitors. So I think if you ever plan to visit, you have to you check out.
Of course. Myself and my husband, it's in the bucket list actually.
Yeah.
So
I'll be happy to welcome you all. But on the whole, why we have this conservative policy is because we are a very small country with road infrastructure, hospitality systems, only appropriate and enough for a small number of people. We cannot, so therefore our system cannot take too many tourists at a time. Then we will be bogged down and overwhelmed. So therefore, we have a conservative, high quality, low volume tourism policy for the world, which is why we are popularly say there is a $200 tariff.
Yes, I've heard about it. Yes.
Of course, when you look at other places in the world, it is not very expensive. It is in some countries, you have to pay thousands of dollars just for one room for one night. 200 is including the guide, the car, the driver, the food, the rooms. So it sometimes requires explanation, but it's still a good policy, and it also attracts quality tourists, especially from the West. But for South Asia, as I said, we have different tariffs or processes.
So probably if we apply for a family visa, like family visit visa like that, probably like the country would grant, right?
Yes,
For
yes.
South Asians. Okay.
No, yeah, it's cheaper for South Asians. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kavi.
So thank you.
for the-
Thank
Yeah, thank you very much.
you for the interview. Thank you.
Thank you.